Well, I don't want to come take your rings or present ducks or anything, but before we get to the awards, as I always like to do, a little recap of some of the news since we last met. So here are some of the highlights. Have you heard about this? Apparently, people have been injured playing Microsoft Kinect, the game console that lets you interact with a game using body gestures. There have been reports of tennis elbow, muscle strain, back injuries. Luckily, it's not quite as bad as experts say. For example, using some of Microsoft's previous products, like Vista, caused long bouts of depression. But in fairness, always looking to improve things with each new product, each new release, Microsoft is aiming for internal bleeding and anal fissures. All right, let's move past Microsoft. They're starting to throw food at me up here. Late last year, Oracle finally won its case against SAP, which it had sued for stealing its software. A California Northern District jury awarded Oracle $1.3 billion in damages, or roughly the equivalent of the maintenance fees Oracle charges each of its software customers. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, the federal judge in the case overturned it, offering Oracle the choice of going back to trial or settling for a lesser amount of $272 million. Oracle responded immediately, saying, "We believe the jury got it right, and we intend to pursue the full measure of the damages we believe are owed to Oracle." Then Mr. Ellison said he would take matters into his own hands. He then ate some dinner and then TP'd the judge's house. Ironically, a few months later, Larry Ellison found himself in court again, this time actually as jury foreman. While doing so, he managed to formulate a hostile takeover of another jury in an adjoining courtroom. He also carved HP CEO Leo Apotheker's home phone number in the jury box, along with the words, "For a good time, call." Now, Oracle is embroiled in many lawsuits, not only with SAP, but also with Google, our friends over here at Rimini Street, and HP. Rumor has it at Oracle Open World, the company will announce a new division within Oracle called the Justice Department. HP has been in the news lately as well. In addition to announcing its intention of buying Autonomy for more than $10 billion, HP has announced it would divest itself of the PC business and the mobile business. Now, HP acquired Compaq almost 10 years ago to this day for $25 billion. It acquired Palm over a year ago for $1.2 billion. HP seems to be getting a bit quicker about assessing and then acting on questionable acquisitions. According to my calculations, at this pace, I expect the company to sell Autonomy in about 2 hours for $1,500 and a box of print cartridges. Just the black and white ones, though. HP hired its new CEO, Leo Apotheker, late last year. Now, Apotheker had been the CEO of SAP. During the Oracle-SAP trial, Oracle tried to subpoena Apotheker, but the Frenchman could not be found. In one of the biggest games of Where's Waldo, Oracle allegedly had private investigators hunting him down. Desperate, Oracle finally hired this man. Now, Oracle and HP don't like each other much. Oracle chairman and CEO Larry Ellison said of HP, "We're one big cheetah, IBM's a stallion, and HP is one big turtledom." This is true. Apotheker stomped his feet and said, "No fair, it's my turn to be cheetah, Larry." Never far from the fray, Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer insisted, "You're all snakes and I'm a honey badger." Now, I'm sure everybody has heard of Operation Shady Rat, the notorious hacking effort that some have tied to the Chinese. Well, it turns out that the perpetrators used steganography, a rarely deployed technique for hiding malicious code behind image files. Rigged images included a pastoral waterside scene and a suggestive photo of a woman in a hat. Later, the malware ended up in photos texted by Anthony Weiner and Brett Favre. This continues to be an amazing year for social media. In June, Pope Benedict XVI tweeted for the first time, announcing the launch of a Vatican news site. Later that night, he blew up Twitter with the following tweets. Cardinals tired of Notre Dame losing had to restrain them from bringing back Knute Rockne from the dead. Tired of hearing confessions of Goldman Sachs execs. Also, I don't think pink is my best color, do you? And then someone left an iPhone 5 at the Sistine Chapel. Pics on my blog. Word is that the next pope will not be announced with a puff of white smoke, but with a tweet. New pope, homies. President Obama conducted a town hall using Twitter as a way for citizens to ask questions, like this one from @Trump. Where's a good place to get a fake birth certificate? According to a confused Sarah Palin, Paul Revere used Twitter to warn the British. And did you hear about the riots in London? Apparently, many rioters were using BlackBerry Messenger or BBM to coordinate it all. Can you imagine using social networks to coordinate riots? I mean, back in my day, we just post a note on CompuServe and grab a tire iron. Apple has had another good year. So good that everyone is gunning for them, and according to lawsuits Apple has filed all over the world, those other companies are violating the company's patents. Samsung and Apple have countersued each other, and Apple has even won injunctions preventing Samsung products from being sold in countries throughout the world. I thought it might be helpful to look at this chart, which shows the entire lawsuit mess, but it's, it's a little confusing. It makes me blind. So for a simplified analysis, we now turn to our correspondent, Joe Piscopo.
Thanks, Fritz. Joe Piscopo, live, Saturday Night Tech. Long time no see. Vacation, good. Wife, kids, Canada, fishing, fun. But the big story, mobile patents, complex. Looks like this. Apple sues Samsung. Samsung makes iPhone chip. Apple sues HTC, Motorola, LG. Samsung sues Apple. Microsoft gets HTC license fees. Oracle sues Google for using Java and Android. So Apple, Microsoft, and Oracle all sue Google. Google chairman was VP at Sun. Oracle buys Sun. Google chairman sat on board of Apple. Google buys Motorola for its patents. Who wins? Who knows? Who cares? Back to you, Fritz.
Did you hear about this? In China, they've actually created fake Apple stores. Here in America, we just call them Microsoft stores. I didn't know you guys would be sitting so close to me. Now, Apple has been in the news quite a bit this year, but this was interesting. In July, during the debt ceiling debacle, Apple had cash and securities of $76 billion, more than the cash reserves of the U.S. government at the time. The moment the U.S. Treasury hit $76 billion, Apple sued it for patent infringement. During better times, President Obama called the tech elite to a dinner at the White House. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, Cisco's John Chambers, Apple's Steve Jobs, Google's Eric Schmidt, and several other CEOs were there, including Oracle's Larry Ellison and IBM's Sam Palmisano, or as President Obama likes to call them, the cheetah and the stallion. Nancy Pelosi couldn't make it. She was off undermining the president on another worldwide expense junket. Seth, I didn't see you in that picture there. I think you were there, though. Did you hear about Apple opening a new facility in Cupertino? Now, if you take a look at Google's new campus called Googleplex, you'll note that it's airy and it's open. Facilities include a gym, laundry rooms, 2 small swimming pools, multiple sand volleyball courts, 18 cafeterias, and all of it's free. Google has also installed replicas of Spaceship One. Apple's proposed new complex looks like a spaceship. All meals have to be approved by Apple. Each bite costs 99 cents, and right there in the middle is a beautiful walled garden. And the Chinese are apparently rushing to build a fake Apple campus. VMware has taken a bit of a beating these past few months. Yeah, you thought you would get off light there, VMware. It announced some pricing changes with vSphere 5. Specifically, it attempted to put a virtual memory limit of 48 gigs on a virtual machine running under its high-end enterprise license. VMware doubled the memory limit, though, to 96 gigs 3 weeks after its initial licensing move. Customers were so happy they began rioting and kissing in the streets. Here are some changes that VMware is thinking about for version 6 of vSphere. Charging by the number of transistors on your CPU chip and the number of trips the administrator makes to the bathroom. Now, never to be outdone, Microsoft, the Redmond giant, took advantage of this pricing controversy by announcing that it was at least a year behind VMware, so it couldn't possibly match those price hikes. The World Health Organization released a study saying that prolonged use of cell phones can cause cancer. Immediately, the mobile industry's lobbying group, CTIA, claimed these statements were alarmist. They also claimed that cigarettes are okay, there's no global warming, and Elvis is still alive. The CTIA did admit that walking around with a Bluetooth headset all day does tend to make you look like a tool. Nobody here, though. In May, a prisoner in a Chinese labor camp claimed that guards forced him to play online games to build up points in a practice called gold farming. Those prisoners who lost were forced to run the Genius Bar at the fake Apple stores. IBM's Watson did well on the Jeopardy game show, battling some of the show's former champions. The experiment was a demonstration of the machine's ability to understand context in human language. Despite its accomplishments, it's still struggling to understand the lyrics of several Eminem songs. Steve Jobs recently resigned as Apple CEO. The Apple board met quickly to decide on a successor. The company announced Tim Cook as next Apple CEO by sending a puff of white smoke from the top of its headquarters building in Cupertino. Immediately following the resignation, Yoon-Woo Lee, Samsung CEO, also attempted to resign, and Apple quickly filed an injunction preventing the resignation letter from reaching Samsung's board. Finally, in hacking news, one hacker made noise at the recent Black Hat security conference by showing how medical devices can be compromised. Security researcher Jerome Radcliffe hacked live and on stage his own insulin pump. Hackers quickly got to work after witnessing this. One was successful at making catheters squirt urine at passers-by. Eerily, another one could make a smoker's voice box sing Michael Jackson's Thriller. Okay, on to the awards. But before we get to the awards, Rob Preston will give everyone a little insight on just what it takes and what goes into the Information Week 500.